So, plan is very, 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 very simple. I'm just gonna cut a hole in a volcano. Now, I know a lot of you, perhaps even some volcanologists, some volcanologists will be out there saying, Tex, don't just do that. That's where the magma lives, and the magma is very mad. And I'm like, don't you worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I'm accounting for the woods over there to deal with it. Look at all those woods. It's so much nature. And all that nature can deal with a little bit of magma, right? Nature's had a long time to build up a resistance. It will be fine. It will be fine. All these people worried about nature. Nature has been around for billions of years. Billions and billions and billions of years. A little bit of magma, which again, I must point out, is from nature. Is from nature. Magma is from nature, believe it or not. Believe it or not, it is from nature itself. When magma comes through, and if magma was to wipe away some of these things it touched, well, that would just be nature doing these things. It wouldn't be me doing these things. Now, would it? No. It would be nature doing it. And see, that's the thing. I'm trying to remake and rebuild nature. Let nature heal, as it were. You know? Just help nature out some. That's my vision for this world. So what we're doing here is we're down to 3. Oh boy, we're really low on drink. So let's tell them to start making alcohol. And then I need to get a proper like bed situation out, because some of the dwarfs are getting into the mad range. And that's not good. When dwarves are upset, that shit is bad. Because they'll be like, you know, normal people, when normal people get mad, they'll just sit there and fume about it. You know, like every man out there, hell, even ladies who like ladies will know that there are those relationship moments where you sit there and ask, oh, is something wrong? And they go, no, everything's fine. And everything is not fine. Everything is in fact wrong. Right? So most people are really familiar with those moments where it's just nervous and you don't know what to say or do. You don't want to have a fight. You don't want to escalate. The dwarves are like that, but instead of having a screaming fit or pointing out your inadequacies or crying and getting incredibly emotional or doing all those harmful things, dwarves will just go, you know what? Today's the day I tear a cat in half. Today's the day I punch that baby. Like they absolutely have player character energy when they snap. They'll be like, you know what? I'm going to make art for the fortress. And you're like, oh, good. And they're like, it's going to be made out of all the missing pets I've collected. And you're like, oh no. And they just do that. The dwarves have they definitely have a screw loose, and they'll just be like, today's the day. You know, like, today's the day what? And they're like, yeah, today's the day. And you never know what the day is, but today's the day. So you got to be careful with your dwarves. Oh yeah, I have an animal somewhere. Isn't it still in a cage? Whatever. Kitchen. Creatures, pets, livestock. Oh yeah, see, we're gonna kill all that shit immediately. I once had a fortress in the desert and all my animals became horribly desiccated. And I know that's not funny per se, but I was laughing because, like, days later in my fortress, days and days and days later, I was running into like the desiccated remains of like emus and stuff, like just like pressed flat like a flower, because my fortress was all like rock salt, so you know that was really good on flesh. So they had just fallen into the ground and just become horribly like just mummies. And my fortress was marked occasionally with animals that had nowhere to forage. Eventually, I want to have a nice little animal area, maybe down in the cavern, where I can have ducks, you know. There's Mr. Train, that is the bane of my life. Say hi to Mr. Train, everybody. Once all the dwarves get beds, and once we start engraving this shit, they will be okay. I bet you. Most of them will be alright. And then I will create room, comma, religious, comma, nondescript. Right there. That room, they're going to love. They're going to just sit there and be like, room, comma, religious, comma, nondescript is my favorite way to worship specific deity. And they will just lose their minds. And that is how I deal with that. They come up and they're like, my God is important. I'm like, you're right. You should take your religious views down to room, comma, nondescript, comma, pretty, and get in there and tell everyone else about your religious views, perhaps in contrast to their religious views. On the ordering of the cosmos, on the number of wives you can have. Just go ahead. Just have those arguments there. You see what I'm doing? I'm saving the rest of us a headache. They have room, comma, large, comma, nondescript, comma, pretty. And they can go there and have all of their praising and the funerals and all of the big religious things that need to be done can be done in that one room. Because I had a friend of mine who catered to the dwarves. He catered to these motherfuckers. And he created new churches and rooms for every religion. And before long, he had like 30 fucking religions. And he's like, I don't understand why they keep coming here. And I was like, I don't know. Probably they hear that some fucking weird asshole is catering to every insane religious sect who says, well, I need a religious home too. And he refused to believe that. And in Dorf Fortress, I believe shit like that. I believe that system's out there, that there is, you know, like a religious conclave system where they're like, where's good land at? And they're like, oh, well, this guy will build a fortress. He'll build you a fucking giant palace for every religion you could come up with. And so people just show up and they're like, yeah, I worship the flying spaghetti monster. And I'm like, oh, well, here's your palace for free. Please bring as many of your followers as you want. Because he did that in the fortress. And I will say this, his fortress was impressive. It was like a monastery. He was making paintings constantly and had constant books being made and engravings and art. And his book binding was impressive. Like he had a giant library where people were studying all sorts of arcane knowledge. Like he had this amazing library. And he had hundreds and hundreds of these just scholarly dwarves in there. And they were all religious, and they all, you know, had giant religious hierarchies. The core working part of the fort that actually made anything, was small. It was food and then stuff to make the monasteries work. And a few people who build stuff. And the people who build stuff would like eventually go crazy. But what he had was a gaggle fuck of worshipers who had shown up, which was really, really interesting because a lot of them were like hyper militant 40K sorts of church people. And so he never had like problems, you know, like stuff would show up and then there would be like, you know, Sir Shoots a lot would tear them apart You know, just absolutely annihilate them. And that would be the end of it. But he had to cater to this giant religious conclave of weird people and their insane demands that just got weirder and weirder. And he eventually was just like, I can't play this fortress. It's so stressful. And it was pretty stressful because, again, he had to cater to just so many different weird groups of people in that fortress that just wanted absolutely different, strange things. And that's true. In Dorf Fortress, if your fortress is successful for long enough, on a long enough timeline, you end up with all of these different power groups that are just like gangs. They each have like their wants and their desires and their needs, and they hate each other. They'll actually start fights. So you'll sit there and be like, why is there a fight between this group of farmers and this other group of people? And it's like, oh, well, yeah, there's a gang, and these two groups are in the gang, and they hate each other. And it'll just be indoor fortress. And you'll be like, why? There's all sorts of crazy coups that can happen. And you won't know what's going on. Just half your fortress suddenly becomes violent toward the other half. And what's happening at that point is there's like a royalist coup. And the people will fall into categories like, are they pro or anti-royalist? Like, the game generates all this, and you have to just deal with this bullshit. See, this is going to be the religious room. They're going to be like, I want to praise that God. And they'll be like, oh, here you go. Look at that room for praising. That's for every God you could think of. Come up with a few. Go in there. Have fun. Knock yourself out. And they're like, thank you so much. And I'm like, no problem. Everything is fine and dandy like cotton candy, brother. And they're like, you seem sinister. And I'm like, no, not at all. Not at all. I'm not just looking at uncorking a volcano to lower it a few levels. Because just a few levels would make this a little easier, a little more convenient. I won't have to move the fortress. I'll just move the magma. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. So, I told everybody they can work on everything. We've got a lot of alcohol being made, which is good. Like, more than enough. We have more than enough food, which is good. You always want to have a stockpile, because I know some people will run that through the stupid manager, and they'll be like, I have 200. I have 300 food. And I'm like, right, but then you have a big pile of people show up. And what do you do then? That's when you need to have that stockpile. I'm going to tell these guys to make easy meals, because I know we have plenty of bins. And I'm going to tell them to take all these animal bits out, because they will forget and it will stink, or it will become possessed and haunted and will wander around, which can happen, and it can attack people. You have to make sure that, like the skull and the bone are, out. Because that stuff will come back to haunt you. Quite literally. Well, we got a lot of like bones and horn that need to go out there. But we got a guy cooking them all up. Making dwarf and wine biscuits. I remember one time I had a problem with a horse in a fortress, and it kept just running in the fortress and running around, and it was distracting everybody. Like, it would stop them from doing what they should be doing. So I had just this horse that was going around, doing horse stuff, and it was stopping my dwarves from, again, doing their job. And I was like, no. We're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. So I sent my dwarves out to grab that horse, and we like just fucking killed it, because, you know, it was just going around being crazy. So I had them just fucking murk the horse. They took care of it. And then I remember looking over, like, some dwarf was mad, and I was like, why is he mad? You know, checking his thoughts. And it was like, I did not enjoy horse biscuits. And I just died laughing. I don't like the horse biscuits. And I'm like, well, the horse needs to not fuck up then. You know? The horse would not be in the biscuits if the horse was better at being a horse. So I've got my soap maker's workshop and those things over there. They're building that. We're slowly putting beds in, which means doors won't be far behind. There's going to be the mechanics workshop, and there's the bowyer's workshop in the corner where nobody works. Back in olden days, back in the old times, they used to have bowyers used to be a really big industry. Every era of this game has its big kind of vibe in terms of what is the big meta, what works. No specific deity. There it is. And so there's every specific version of the game has that. It also will have quite specifically a bane, a monster, a thing that causes dread. Once upon a time it was the carp, you know, before that it was the elephant. There will be something that, because of how game mechanics are, cause people to suddenly realize that this creature, that creature, this thing or that thing, or suddenly the most heinously lethal thing in the game because of some modest or mild mechanic now working differently. That can happen in Dwarf Ortress. You'll have something that previously made a creature just kind of annoying to deal with, suddenly giving them an insane advantage that the game hadn't calculated, no one had ever calculated. And then it suddenly comes into play and you're like, oh no. I mean, like, for a time in the community, you know, there was a phrase of dread: the carp stands up. That just kind of summed things up. Like, shit was going sideways. The carp stands up. I remember for another era, for like a summer, it was, oh, the Baron has visited, you know, to say that, like, everything is starting to get worse in the game. You know, oh man, it was a shit summer. The Baron visited already. You know, letting you know that you're getting to that level of engagement where things start to get crazy. Hey, he finally fixed the wall. Good. All right, so my plan is I'm going to knock out this and knock this out. I'm going to replace it with real wood, because I want my fortress to have like that cozy lined interior look. That's what I'm going for. And I'm going to have them do that. And we're going to do that with fancy wood, and then we'll engrave it and stuff, so it'll be all, you know, fancy-ish. Here's where they put the aminal bones. Alright, and everyone's getting rooms, so that's good. You may have to crawl over a boulder or two to get in your room, but you can deal. You'll have a room, right? Yeah, the first people who inhabit the fortress are gonna have like killer rooms, and then as it goes on, it's gonna be like certainly less killer rooms. It's gonna be some, you know, austerity rooms, we'll say. There's gonna be some rooms where it's just gonna be like, oh, yep, it's that room. Like the siege room, This is gonna make parts approximately never. So there, it's gonna also store some stone, right? The metalsmiths will be out there. Hopefully will also be the furnaces, hopefully. That being said, I will set up a wood furnace here because I could make ash and stuff, you know, for the fields. That could be good. See, there's the wood burner. Oh, I need blocks. Shit. Well, alright, we'll get that. I'll add blocks there. And I'll just make some stuff and we'll fertilize the fuck out of our field. So it'll be the best field. It will grow the best dwarf cocaine. And they'll be like, huzzah! Alright, let's see. No, still haven't cut that channel yet, so it's not time to uncork the giant. But hey, we got our things going real good. They're tending to affairs. Everyone has a room. I mean, sure, some are probably marginally better than others, but everyone has a room. They can't complain. Like, you have a room. It's stone. It's cut into stone. It's enough room for a bed and then like 2 more lengths of bed in front of the bed. See, a lot of people forget the ashery even exists. I frequently do. So we have plenty of like leather and other stuff. We should be able to build a pretty functional fortress, actually. And if I can lower the lava at least a few Z levels, because up here is where I'd have to build my platform, which is, there's my junk floor, there's my main floor. I could also do it off the main floor. I'd prefer not to. But yeah, I'm hoping, because I'm taking it down. Let's see. There's the lava. So 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 levels. I'm not sure how many it will actually drop, but I'm hoping at least half that. I'm sure we could calculate it out with some math, but let's not let that get in the way of a good time. All right, we're gonna start cutting, making all that nice. We'll eventually smooth all this and make all this nice so they can't be whiny bitches forever. They will be. They'll find something to complain about. They'll be like, oh, that giant crystal pony you built is scary. It's too sharp. And I'll be like, oh my God. And I'll want to kill them with a hammer, but you can't. You have to have the hammerer do it, and they're usually very stupid. So you do what you can. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making rock blocks, because blocks are good for everything. Telling him to keep making wood barrels. Actually, wait. For a while, I'm going to have him make rock bins. And we've got barrels out the ass. I'm going to tell him to make wooden bins. And cut gems if there are any. I doubt it. Alright. So, what we're going to do is we're going to hope that they finish doing anything I've told them to do in any appreciable time frame. Any time frame whatsoever. They just have to choose a time frame between now and eternity. Seeing them go down there to pick up logs. No one to cut that channel because they're so enthralled with everything else going on. They're like, oh, a butterfly. Oh, a hot dog. And they just pick it up and wander around. And it is aggravating and beautiful at the same time. I have to say that. because it is very close as an approximation to the nightmare of having to deal with human beings. It is just one of those things of, why is this guy doing this? Well, he occasionally does that. Well, fuck. Okay, some of these rooms are gonna come out fucked up, but I don't care. Those can be weird, like little party rooms. Since I have a lot of the core industry handled, I can now start creating weirder stuff. You know, I can have dungeons and zoos and ballrooms. You know, I can just create whatever I want. Largely, this is me just exploring the mining down here in a semi-regular pattern and seeing what I get out of it, if anything, which I doubt I will, but I'll at least create an interesting hallway, you know, to walk through. With Dorf stuff, I can make some of these into like grave areas. They like a good grave site, these dwarves. They just get excited. They're like, oh man, you call that a grave site? Fuck that, come check this out. And they'll have like a turbo grave site, you know? Let me guess, no migrants. No migrants! So yeah, the front of the fortress is like cherry wood logs and stone, and I'm gonna have that all engraved up nice, and then I'll build my bar here, hanging off the awesome deck we built. And yeah. We'll build a bar, and that bar is going to be my line of defense versus everything that comes in my fortress. In fact, I might just make this the bar. I could elongate this and make it the bar. Actually, I don't need to elongate it. It's already undercover. No, I'll just put an internal wall, like, I'd say about here. And I'll just use the basic rock we have laying around. Just have some basalt, it'll be fine. I'll put finished goods here, just in case, more storage because it's near the storage, you know, so that'll be easy. So we'll have 2 doors, and we'll just have a nice little adventuring bar. Everyone has their contributions to Dwarf Fortress. I'm not sure if I came up with their idea. I'm pretty sure I didn't come up with the idea. But I'm the first person I can remember, some of the haunts has gone bad. Oh, yeah, they didn't carry off all that rot, so now it's gonna go gross. And yeah, so while I'm not gonna say that I invented all this, I think I was the first person who started talking about it in the Dwarf Fortress community, which is, you know, how to build defenses. And everyone has for the longest time talked about their favorite defenses, you know. I have 4 military squads and each has these specific weapons and loadouts, or I have 1 squad of superheroes that I've sent out to do all these things and they can handle anything. Or, you know, I've seen some people who just say, for a while I fell into this category as well. There were people who just said, I have big ass squads of wrestlers, and every time I have people who stand around doing nothing, I put them in the wrestler squad. So there's just this room of dudes constantly wrestling each other. And when something happens, all the wrestlers leap into action and just tear them limb from limb. I was one of those guys. And then some people get into mechanical defenses, or, you know, they're like, oh, they like siege towers and ballistas. They like traps. They like all sorts of, you know, like mechanical traps. Like a lot of people would say, oh, they come in here and it activates this, and then this mine cart comes forward and it shoots them full of rails. And like everyone had a million and one ideas, like the, you know, Home Alone style, just crazy stuff happening, constant ideas of how best to, you know, defeat your enemy. And that was the game of how best to defend your fortress, make something nice, defeat your enemy, and how to do it with, you know, real dwarven style. And so everyone was coming up with something more advanced. A lot of people had refined magma throwers that would throw magma like Z levels. And they could turn that on and make a literal wall of fire on command and just destroy whole parts of everything. They could just conjure up that destructive capability. Other people had moats. One guy had a really impressive moat setup where each of the moats had under it another pond, essentially with hydraulic rammers, so he could raise and lower those and essentially have waves generated in his moats where he could like agitate it and it would push people or suck them down into holes or stuff. It was pretty wild. But yeah, he could essentially make armies disappear into his series of very complex modes, and that was his whole deal. But my whole approach to all this is I said, why go complex? The game, with opening up so much of the world to explore, to include the caverns and all the things that can spawn there, and all the monsters and roving monstrosities that can show up on your doorstep and want to hurt you, like, you know, the were creatures and all of those things. They all have, all of these things have also allowed you to connect with the world, because you can run that tavern now. You can run that tavern, you know, like a D&D tavern, essentially. Just all these tough people will just show up because you have an adventurer's tavern. So what I'm doing is, my approach is to have that adventurer's tavern right next to the door of your fortress. That way, anything that comes in that wants to cause harm to your fortress has to fight through a shitload of adventurers. And at that point, you're probably gonna have it well in hand, or it's beyond your ability to deal with. But either way, you get a lot of free equipment from adventures, and I think that that's really a bonus that we can all agree on is probably pretty rad. So I'm gonna do a nice floor out here. I'm gonna wait till I have all of one thing. It'll probably be rock, but I'm also gonna redo the floor in here as my guys are out there trying to cut down tree after tree. But at least we got this built up. Okay, we're slowly starting to. They care enough to try. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Just trying to make people not lose their minds when they see how ugly this is. We need to replace this with all those dwarfy touches that people demand. Alright, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna tell them to start making ash. Not charcoal, ash. Because then from that we can make potash. And from potash we can fertilize the shit out of our field and get more yield out of it. At which point we'll never need to build another field again unless we want to have more variety in our field. Which we can also do because our yield will be very high. with enough fertilization in Dwarf Ortress, you can make very poor soil into very okay soil. And that is good enough. Because right now the soil is considered poor. Yeah, poor soil. Cavern soil is actually quite good. But don't worry, we can make up the difference. We are irresponsible. You know, we're slowly building a tavern. Everyone's getting these sweet-ass rooms that has sweet-ass engravings of dwarves and, you know, dwarves and their civilization. Oh yeah, see, banana tree is burning, the elf is melting. See? Symbol of baby eaters, the government. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, that's some good engravings. Tomatillo plant, you know. Image of coins. Yeah, see, image of dwarves laughing and elves melting. This is all good portents. All very good, all very healthy for a fortress. Please go down there and do that last channel. In fact, to make the channel wider by that much. So it drops and then widens and then nature takes over. Nature is healing. It will heal. Nature is very resilient. Here, I'm gonna have only one thick hallway on this side. This is for when we get another wave. If it's big, they can have another set of rooms up here. And it'll be fine. It'll be fine. See, this is my emergency planning. This is what it looks like when I'm like, what if I get a giant fucking fuck off wave of them? Because I've had that happen. Where I have a fortress that'll have 2-3 years of like a migrant shows up. It'll be like a migrant, a dog, you know, a baby. It will be meaningless and tiny, and I will get lulled into this sense of, well, maybe everything's fine. And for a time, everything seems fine. By the way, if you run out of wall because you plan things badly, don't worry about it. Do this, and these become little alcoves for your heroes. You just put your people into the wall, you know? You're like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so. He got stomped by that thing. He was great. Anyways, and then you get back to doing whatever. But as time goes on in my fortress, sometimes the greatest hazard becomes boredom or lack of planning. So you'll see my fortresses start off and all the dwarves have plenty rooms and the rooms are really big, and then eventually it turns into Dorf dormitory, which if you do it right, isn't cursing your fortress at all. If you do it right, that's kind of the problem. Frequently I don't. Frequently I am a fucking idiot, and I will cause all sorts of issues. All sorts of issues. But one guy moves slightly over to less Engie, so I'm counting that as a win, my friends. I'm counting that as a win. Alright, let's see. We're gonna do basalt, because that's what we have the most of. We're gonna do, that is the floor. That'll be fairly rough until we engrave it, where it'll be slightly less rough. It's not bricks, it's just bunches of little pieces of it smashed together. That's gonna be our floor. So that's gonna be the floor to let people know we have a bar. And we're also gonna do that for the main room on the way in. We want people to know that, you know what, basalt all around. I like it. It's there, it's cheap, it works, you know. And we'll let people know that, you know, this is that kind of place. Sure, it's not fancy. It's not upscale, right? It's basalt. That's what you get down at Ponder Orbs. You get that basalt walkway, you know, so you can go out there and ponder that orb out on our nice balcony. We got a nice balcony. You could just ponder your orbs there. We won't judge. Any of the orbs you purchase can be pondered on the property for as long as you like. For as long as you like, you may ponder your orbs on our property. Just saying, we're that kind of place. We have a bar. You can go ponder. You can ponder in the bar. Never mind that occasional smell that I know what it is. It's all that fucking yak. It's that yak that went bad. Anyways, in one season we have enough plump helmets to feed the fortress for like 5. We'll be fine. But yeah, I'm gonna put all this down. And it'll be great. So far, so good. So far, yeah, we're just knocking holes in everything and everything will be all right. I'll have to pave over some of this stuff before I turn that into apartments, but the basics are here. And I'll get a few more stones here by making the office of some guy here. And he can sit in there and scream. That'll be fun. Hopefully next time we'll cut a hole in something. No migrants. Magma Crab and Farmer Fab are fighting. Well, we have to show the Magma who's boss. We have to knock it down a peg or two. Specifically a few Z levels. But I think like another 10 or 20 migrants would help me realize what I want to do here a little more quickly, at least. And it would allow me to, what the fuck? Oh. Something has collapsed. All of this collapsed on the surface. All of it. Where did it collapse? Oh my god, it all collapsed into the magma sea. So all those Z levels down there has just been opened. It wasn't anything I did. It just happened. The magma ate through. Yeah, that's what's going on. This is the magma eating through all these Z levels. This is parts of the map being unstable under the magma. Oh boy. Yeah, it looks like this is now the mouth of the magma bits. It used to be here. Now it's 1 Z level down. Yeah, it looks like it ate through a bit. Okay, that can happen. I once had a fortress where supports under the original magma caldera of the volcano melted because there was like an abandoned fortress down there that had all these structures and supports and hallways and like rooms with loot in them. Very Caves of Cud style layout. And it was like a whole fortress down there. And it melted through the walls of that and eventually melted all of it. Okay, the farmer's been missing for a week. I think the magma crab may have gotten him. Yeah, it looks like the magma overflowed just a little bit and set all this on fire briefly. Interesting. So there are things going down underneath us. And one of the people disappeared, so I'm going to have to engrave a fucking funeral slab, which is always annoying because it's a 2-part process. You have to make a rock slab, and then you have to engrave the rock slab, and then you have to put it somewhere. And then once you do that, the ghost is like, I will go to the ghost dimension. where I will do no more dickery, and you stare at them because you know they're gonna do some fucking dickery. They can't help it. So yeah, see, then you have to engrave it. Make sure it's engraved. So it says like, this guy was a dick and he died to a fucking magma crab when the volcano exploded. Alright, there we go. Look at that. Alright, now we're gonna knock a hole. I know I'm only probably gonna get one of these two knocked out before it burns that dwarf alive. Oh my god, they got both. Hell yes. Hell yes, those miners are epic. Fuck yeah, fuck you, nature. Look at that. Take that, you stupid trees. And you plants and animals and stuff. Oh boy, we're getting a bit more magma coming out than I thought. Oh, something's collapsed on the surface? I wonder what that is. Like, I'm gonna let this settle a minute. This ought to make this part of the map a little easier to navigate for me. Alright, so, open space. Alright, there's a surface. Okay, 6, 7, 5, 7. Alright, it is draining. And you can see it's actually draining toward that end. That's getting, oh, 3, yeah, see, that end is getting really shallow. So yeah, this level will probably drain, giving me more open space, meaning I may have to do this on the main level, which I don't want to do, but that may be where I do it, where I do my magma forging, because, oh man, look at this stuff. This stuff is just having a good time. Oh, it'll burn all this stuff. Some of the trees will be miraculously untouched, and you can build like little platforms to them, so you can have like little tree forts in your magma. See, that's kind of neat. Sometimes they collapse into the magma. See, that's also kind of neat. Now you know how much I care about my dwarves. Okay, everyone has a fancy room. The grumpy Gus is fine. That one guy died to a magma crab. Everyone else seems kind of unfazed by it, so I'm gonna go with he was a grumpy Gus. And he met his end. And that was better than the end he probably would have chosen. I think at his funeral, they had that crab there. These are all gonna be mass food stockpiles. Because that's what you do in a fortress. And they're all slightly different, a little bit, kind of. But we're now waiting on construction to actually show up and do some of this stuff. And we have plump helmets essentially dying in the field because we have so many plump helmets. What? What's collapsing? Oh, trees? It's not worth noting. It's just calm down, game. You're acting like nature is gonna destroy it. It'll be okay. It'll be alright. Look, I let some, that's a lot of magma out, and holy fuck, I let a lot of magma out. And it'll be fine. Nature will solve itself, like it always does. Almost a whole Z level of magma has left. That's gonna be the woodpecker of my game.
Tanto se coste